Okay, today's new topic is exponential function notation. So before we get started, I want you guys to remember that x represents every single thing that's on this list. So x is domain, it's the independent variable, it's your input, and of course it's on the x-axis. For y, that's range, dependent variable, output, and you'll find it on the y-axis. So this table, it's very important that you guys remember all of this stuff. So let's start with the first problem. Example 1 says the graph of the exponential function f of x equals 8, parentheses 3 halves to the x power is shown to the left. So they want us to find f of 3 and f of 1. So whenever you have that notation, when you have a number inside parentheses, all they're asking you to do is plug that in where you see an x. So you could put a 3 here into a calculator and get your answer that way. But because they gave us a graph, it's going to be a lot easier to use the graph. So since 3 is on the spot where x normally goes, we are going to look at 3 on the x-axis of this graph, which is right here. Let me zoom into this graph a little. Okay, that's better. Okay, so like I was saying, since it's f of 3, we're going to look on our x-axis, find 3, and keep going up until you touch the function. So we're touching right here. So I want to know what the output would be. And if you remember the table from above, the output is the y-axis. So 27 is our answer here. Okay, and then the same thing with f of 1. So we're going to go on the x-axis, find 1, go up until we touch the function, and now check to see what the y value is right there. And it's at 12. So f of 1 equals 12. Pretty easy, right? Let's go to the next example. So this one is more of a real world problem. It says the value of a car is modeled by the exponential function graph to the left. What was the initial value of the car? So we talked about this on Monday when we were talking about all of the attributes. The initial value is going to be the y-intercept. So I'm going to zoom into this graph a little bit more. Try to get the words to stay. Okay, let's do it like that. So if this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis, I'm going to look to see where it starts. And it's at 16. So I'm going to go ahead and write 16 here. But you also have to be careful to look at what units you should be using. If you look at the label, it's in thousands of dollars. So it's not just regular 16, it's $16,000. So $16,000. Okay, the next question says, how much is the value of the car after 1 year? So this is where function notation comes in. What they're essentially trying to get us to do is f of 1. We would plug in 1 for 1 year. So we're going to look at our x-axis and find 1. The other thing is it's labeled years. So if they want to know 1 year, you're going to look at the part that says year, find 1. So let's go up until we touch the function, which is right here. Then let's see what the y value would be. So it's 12. So the value of the car after 1 year is $12,000. And then the third question says, how much will the value of the car be after 2 years? It's the same thing. They just want us to plug in 2. So I'm going to go to my graph. I'm going to check the bottom find 2, go up. So on this one, it's kind of in the middle there. So right here, if it's between 8 and 10, that must be 9. But again, we have to follow our unit, so $9,000. Okay, now let's turn to the back of this. So now I want to try, what would we do if they just gave you the equation? So they don't give us any graph to look at, just the equation. It says g of x equals 12, 1.5 to the x power. And they want us to find g of -2 and g of 4. So since this -2 is inside the parentheses, that means that it represents x. So this -2, I'm going to plug it in where x is at. So I'm going to do 12 times 1.5 to the -2 power. So we need a calculator for this. So I realize not all of us have calculators at home, so I'm going to show you a way that you can get one online. So I already have my internet pulled up. What we're going to do is go to desmos.com. Just like that. DESMOS.com. It looks like this. So later on when we start graphing, you can do this, start graphing. But for now, all I want is a calculator. So we're going to go to scientific. And now I want to type in the thing that I had. So let me fix this to where I can see both screens. Okay, so I want to do 12 parentheses 1.5, and then I need to have to the -2 power. So you see this button has A and then has a little b. That gets you the exponent. And then just type in -2. So this right here, this is our answer. Your answer show up on this side, 5.33333. Then you see this button here, it'll convert it to a fraction for us, and that's actually what I would prefer. So 16/3. Just for fun, let's actually put the decimal also, but let's round to the nearest tenth. So rounding to the nearest tenth means that I only want one decimal place. So I'm going to go back to decimal. It's 5.33333, but if I wanted to round it, I would just use one of those. So 5.3. Okay, now I want to do the same exact thing, except this time I want to plug in 4 where the x is at. Okay, so let's clear what we have. And it's 12 parentheses 1.5, raise it up to the power of 4. And that's our answer, 60.75. But remember I said that I want to round to the nearest tenth, so that means only one decimal place. This 5 is going to make it round up to an 8. So our answer is going to be 60.8. Okay, let's do one more example. But it's the same thing. So if I have an equation, how do I find the answers? So this -5, since it's in the parentheses, is going to go where the x is at here. So this equation would turn into 2 parentheses 3 to the -5 power. So let me type that into my calculator, clear all, 2 to the -5 power. So that gives us a giant decimal. Let's see what it is as a fraction. Let's leave it as a decimal, but since I can't round it to the 10th because it would be 0. Let's go to just that first number. So 0.008. And then the next question, g to the third power, or 3. So we're going to put 3 where the x is at. So clear all. 2 parentheses 3 to the third power is just 54. Okay, so let me close this one out. Okay, so that's all that we had for today. All we're doing is function notation, what happens when you plug in a number. If you have any questions, like always, feel free to send a private message to me or you can email me.